Statutory interpretation is the process where judges determine the meaning of words in legislation through established judicial methods. The different rules or approaches to statutory interpretation are the literal rule, the golden rule, the mischief rule, and the purposive approach. The literal rule is the approach where judges give words their plain meaning as shown in Whiteley v. Chappell and London and North Eastern Railway v. Berriman. The advantages of the literal rule are that it respects parliamentary supremacy and provides certainty, however the disadvantages are that it sometimes produces unjust outcomes and ignores context. The golden rule is the approach where judges modify the literal meaning to avoid absurdity as shown in Adler v. George and re Sigsworth. The advantages of the golden rule are that it prevents absurdity and promotes fairness, however the disadvantages are that it lacks clear guidance and risks judicial creativity. The mischief rule is the approach where judges examine the gap the statute aimed to remedy as shown in Hayden's case and Smith v. Hughes. The advantages of the mischief rule are that it promotes the intention of Parliament and flexible justice, however the disadvantages are that it reduces certainty and increases judicial discretion. The purposive approach is the approach where judges interpret legislation based on its broader aim as shown in Pepper v. Hart and R v. Registrar General ex parte Smith. The advantages of the purposive approach are that it supports justice and modern legislative aims, however the disadvantages are that it potentially allows judges too much interpretative freedom. The different types of aids to interpretation are intrinsic aids and extrinsic aids. The different intrinsic aids to interpretation are titles, preambles, definitions, punctuation, and internal contextual clues. The title of an act is an intrinsic aid where wording signals the scope of legislation, and this was relied on in Powell v. Kempton Park Racecourse. The preamble is an intrinsic aid where judges use introductory text to understand purpose, and it guided interpretation in Hayden's case. The definition section is an intrinsic aid where statutory meanings clarify terms, and this guided the court in Fisher v. Bell. The use of punctuation is an intrinsic aid where judges rely on grammatical structure, and this was noted in Hanlon v. Law Society. Internal contextual clues are intrinsic aids where surrounding provisions guide interpretation, and this supported reasoning in Wheatley. The different extrinsic aids to interpretation are dictionaries, Hansard, law reform reports, international treaties, and previous case law. Dictionaries are extrinsic aids where judges use contemporary meanings of words, and this occurred in Vaughan v. Vaughan. Hansard is an extrinsic aid where parliamentary debates clarify intention, and this was permitted in Pepper v. Hart. Law reform reports are extrinsic aids where judges consult expert recommendations, and this was used in Black-Clawson. International treaties are extrinsic aids where judges align domestic interpretation with external obligations, and this guided reasoning in Pickstone v. Freemans. Previous case law is an extrinsic aid where courts rely on earlier judicial reasoning, and this shaped interpretation in Wheatley. The impact of European Union law on statutory interpretation is the requirement that judges interpret legislation in line with EU principles, where cases such as Marleasing and Pickstone v. Freemans demonstrate a strong purposive influence. The impact of the Human Rights Act 1998 on statutory interpretation is the obligation to interpret legislation compatibly with convention rights, where cases such as Gaydon v. Godin Mendoza and RVA show a significantly expanded purposive and rights-focused approach. Thank you for watching this video on statutory interpretation. I'll see you in the next one.